Good morning, everyone, and welcome to A Beauty with a Purpose. Thank you for tuning in. I just want to say a big hello to everyone that's watching and supporting us this morning. I'm super excited for this program this morning. I have a really good friend of mine that is coming in to give us his testimony, to talk about his story, his journey. We'll have a very informational program as well. I want to make sure that all of our sponsors are being taken care of this morning, and I want to make sure that All Pros Barbershop knows that we really appreciate your sponsorship for this program. If anyone needs any haircuts, it's at 407-778-1912. Their Kissimmee location is Devonport, and if you mention us, you'll get a discount. You have Devonport and they have Kissimmee. Again, the number is 407-778-1912. All Pros Barbershop. Today we'll be talking about different subjects and kind of running into we're interviewing today Gerson Buick, and we are going to give you a really good program today. We hope that you are in tune in the radio. Thank you so much for supporting us on Facebook. If you guys need any more information on sponsorship, our website is www.butterflylove.org. And we have Gerson Boying today, and he'll be talking briefly about his testimony. How are you today?
Pretty good, thank God.
Amen. He had a really rough, long ride here. Well, basically, I want to introduce him because I know him. We kind of came across each other several times. The first time, do you remember the first time that me and you met?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, when I went to cut your grass, right? When I went to cut your grass?
Yeah, before then.
In church, in your mom's church?
Yeah, I met him through my dad is a pastor, Pastor Manuel Ramirez. Yeah. And I guess his family and my family are really good friends, right?
Yeah.
And your mom attends my dad's church, right?
Yeah.
Okay, his mom attends, and your family, some of your family members.
Yeah.
And
your
sister,
my mom, my stepfather.
Okay, well, I met him through them, and I think sometimes we've had several years ago we kind of came across each other. Thanksgiving Day, my family, his family, Christmas now again, my family, his family. So we've been connected in the spirit, and as as God put us together to do His mission. Another time where I met you, I remember when I first met you, you had dreadlocks, right? You had dreadlocks and you were going through something. Tell me about the time, when one of the times I first kind of met you, that I cut your grass. I mean, you cut my grass, sorry. You cut my grass. Yeah. You were getting some money in because you needed some money for your family, and you were building yourself up at that time, right? And we're still a work in progress, but I remember you looked totally different from what you look now. You had like dreadlocks, you had the whole bad boy look. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
I got tired of it was a time that I just got tired of life. I've been fighting an addiction my whole life. I've been coming in and back and forth to guys to church, leaving because the guilt in my mind that I was doing it right. I just got tired of that type of lifestyle, and it got to the point that I hit rock bottom, and got to the point that day that I just decided not to go to the bar. I was already high, so I was out and drunk, and got to the point that I was the friends were inviting me to come into the bar that day. And all of a sudden that day I just didn't want to. Something told me not to go in the bar. I don't know what it was, but I just didn't go, and I just decided. Something told me to walk, and I walked. I was in Cimarron, and then I made a right on Lake Underhill in Orlando. I went just walking, crying. I was crying to God, asking Him, why He had me going through that lifestyle. Why was I going? Why was I in the streets? I didn't have nowhere to go, but and. I got to the point that I seen two churches. One of them, I hit the first one. I went to the back in the woods, and I just surrendered. You know what I mean? Because you got to surrender to God first for anything. And then that day I surrendered. I prayed to Him, and I cried out for help. And as soon as I finished praying, I just came out of that from the woods. And the next church, I don't know what a coincidence that the church was It was open. They had a service, and that church never has a service in the night. But that day they had a service. Something that got me attention was a bright light that made me go inside. And the first person that opened the door for me, that's the first person that is helping me as we speak right now. Her name is Elizabeth. She opened the door and she asked me, "Can I help you?" And I told her, I asked her, "Can you help me?" And she told me, "How can I help you?" And I told her about, that I was an alcoholic and I was a drug addict. And then she told me, "Yeah, I could help you." She told me yes, and she set me next to her husband, Jose. From there, long story short, I accepted God that day. Something new happened in my life. I felt something different in me. That I didn't want to do the bad no more. I had fear of God. Beginning of the relationship between you and God. Ever since that day, they told me, "What can we bring you to? I'm gonna pick you up tomorrow." And I had nowhere to go. I told them, "Leave me in the hospital. I'll wait for you guys in the hospital."
Wow.
And it took the next day they came. It took a process. The enemy was messing with my head, like, "Yo, go to your friends or go to go hang out. You don't need that, this and that." That's how the enemy attacks you, through the mind. And I just stood there. I knew I had enough, and I didn't want to keep going through there. Sometimes we go through a rough life, and we wonder why we suffering, why we going through things. But at the end of the word, I just wanted to say that everything happens for a reason, and I had to go through that because sometimes God got to get your attention through that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
through,
that all things
like
work together for good for those that are called according to His purpose, and whatever it is that you go through, God works that for your purpose, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit. I enjoy hearing your story because I've seen the transformation. Sometimes you hear stories of people, but you don't actually see the transformation.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your background. Before you met Christ, what was your child like? What was your growing up in? Where did you grow up in?
I was born in Honduras, San Pedro Sula, in this real poor area.
Mm-hmm.
All we've seen, was when I was young, I seen a lot of gang related, things when the MS, it's called like the MS-13 and the 18th Street.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it started, like the movement, and when I was young, I used to see things like that, that was normal for me to see it when I was young. Mm-hmm. So when I came out here when I was 10, my mom, she married my stepfather. They got married and they brought me here.
And just to emphasize on that, I've been to Honduras and I know what it is to be in that, and just to be around that. A lot of people are actually fighting to get out of around the situation. There's a lot of matanzas there, killings and different gangs and families. Yeah. But go ahead.
Yeah, and thank God I never got involved in the gangs over there. Those are a little group that we made in the we was young, we was looking at them and we wanted to be like them. Mm-hmm. So we started our own thing, but it was we was young. I was only 5, 5, 6, young. That's how young you start over there, they you look up to people like that,
Mm-hmm.
And when I came out here, me and my mother, it's it was hard to bond in with her because, I was confused. I was really confused with my, I'm like, I thought my aunt was my mother and so when I came to meet my mom, I met my mom in 95 when I was 6, but I didn't have that bond with her like that,
Mm-hmm.
But then I came over here and we didn't bond in, so I started running away.
So it was it was more you went into basically what your life wasn't what you thought it was. So you're just now realizing this is not my mother. This is not, where am I? I'm being moved where I've been raised at. So it was a transitional moment for you. So was that rough for you?
Yeah, because my mom, I don't blame her, because it was hard for to be effective with me. She didn't,
Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't know.
How
old
were you?
I was 10.
Oh, okay.
So I felt not gonna lie to you, I felt like my mom didn't love me. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
So I ended up finding love in the street, and I ended up finding I made my own family, and I felt loved like that.
What
you know
about
I
your
mean?
dad? Did you?
My dad, I met him when I was 10. I went to New York. He used to live over there in the Bronx. He lived all around New York. I met him, but me and him didn't have a good relationship till his wife passed away.
Okay.
Then that's when we ended up, getting together right now. I haven't spoken to him in a while. Ever since he got married and,
Okay.
but
So so when you came from Honduras, where were you at? Like, were you in New York or?
No, I came over here to Orlando.
To Orlando?
In Cimarron, where I ended up finishing in the church.
Okay.
Right in the area.
Oh, okay. So that's
Yeah.
where you're from. That's where you were raised.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Orlando. Yeah, I've been in Orlando, all around in Orlando.
Okay. So continue the story.
So-
you felt like you were disconnected from your mother.
Yeah. So I ended up finding love in the street with my
Okay.
friends. You know what I mean, and then like.
So you
It
felt some
just-
type of emptiness, like you needed to
emptiness.
fulfill something,
Yeah.
like you were missing something.
I was trying to find something to fulfill it, but it was finding it in the wrong places. My
Okay.
mom always brought me to church, and ever since she was little, since I was little, I grew up in church,
Mhm.
and I got when I was young, I was 10. This missionary, his name was Danilo Montero.
Okay.
My mom told me, he said, he prophesied something, about me being the pastoring and things like that. So I didn't believe it. I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm young in that mentality, and it just as through the years I've been, they've been telling me different people in different churches, one in Maryland, one over here in your father's church,
Mhm.
and I just like I told you, I hit rock bottom and I just decided to. I'm like, all you gotta know is that without God, you can't do nothing. You know what I mean? You gotta, once you forget that you can do it on your own, it's like, that's when you know what I mean? Everything falls apart. And that's what happened with me. I thought I could do it on my own, and I felt like I didn't want to keep going to church because I was going and involving myself with the group that I was with. You know what I mean? And
Yeah. No, go
but,
ahead. Yeah. I mean, I'm just like the Lord. You say you hit rock bottom, and
Yeah.
the Lord is our rock. He's the
Yeah.
strength of our life. So sometimes we have to hit rock bottom. Like you literally. God, in those moments when you have nothing, when you lose everything, those are the moments. I mean, God's there continuously. He said He would never leave you or forsake you. But during those times where you feel like you have no direction, right? Is that how you felt, like you had no direction? And
yeah, my testimony is like I seen that light, and the Spirit been letting me feel that my testimony is gonna be we all lamps, and I was a lamp that didn't have oil. Whenever a lamp don't have oil, it turns off. And that's what I felt. I was a lamp without oil. I already knew God. I knew what was bad and what was good, but I was still doing the bad. And I had just let myself go, and that's what happened with that lamp. I was being a lamp that didn't have oil, so I turned off. We are light, in the Bible it talks a lot about the light, that we are light of the darkness, right? And I was a lamp, but I was just off. And so I hit rock bottom, and God let, I seen it with my own eyes that I had to, go through there, so so I could open up my eyes that God's look, man, you're gonna keep going through that. You're gonna gonna be doing this your whole life, back and forth, So
you wanted to be one of the wise virgins that when Jesus comes in, says that the 10 virgins, Matthew 25, talks about the ones that didn't have the oil and went out to go get the oil. And we have to be ready. We have to be ready because, Jesus is coming. And we have to always have that lamp burning for Him so that, when He comes in, we're like, hey, we're ready. We're not going to go out and find somebody that we know or find somebody to give us some of their, some of their oil for our lamps. We're going to actually